Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode. And today I have a special guest, and his name is Jared Bull. And he lives in the US and he's a transformational coach. And he also has a YouTube channel with a lot of videos about all different kinds of subjects, about spirituality. Even he goes into technology and also a lot into relationships that are really helpful for a lot of people. So definitely recommend everyone who is watching or listening to check out his channel. Um, and also, he's also a former soldier, and that's also something we will probably go into a little bit later. But thank you for being here, Jared.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and do the interview and just share with everyone and yourself everything that I learn in my work in the world. I'm really excited.
Okay, yeah, great. Um, so because uh, I already heard that you went into like the army quite at a very young age. How old were you?
So I was 17 when I went into the Marine Corps. Yeah, the U.S. military.
Mhm. Okay, so how did that experience impact your life? Because I also checked out your YouTube channel, and you talk a lot about being an empath, and you give a lot of advice for
Mm.
empaths. But if you're someone that's really sensitive, so how did that, yeah, serving in the army impact you in your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. So really, I went into the Marine Corps, the military, because I wanted to be more of a harder person. I was always very, very sensitive and very empathic, but I grew up in an environment in a family that didn't really honor that sensitivity. I had three other brothers. We were always playing like really roughly. We were forced to do sports by our parents, which wasn't a bad thing. I'm glad they made us do sports because it taught me so much. However, it got to a point where that sensitivity, I really had to turn it off in order to survive my upbringing. When we're young, we don't really have a choice, at least as far as I know, in terms of the families that we choose. And so I was just kind of grew up in this really, really intense, rough house type of family, rough and go, roughneck type of family. And I was a sensitive person. I was the oddball out. And so I felt like I was so sensitive my entire life and it wasn't serving me. So I made the commitment to join the military, and I thought that would make me tougher and would allow me to cope with the world more easily. So I joined when I was 17, and I went into the Marine Corps as an infantryman, as a machine gunner, and it definitely made me tougher. I learned a lot about uh, being a soldier, about being a leader, but in order to do that type of work, you really have to put a hard layer around yourself emotionally. And so it really cut me off from my emotions. It cut me off from my intuition. And I forgot all about that sensitivity. I lost all the sensitivity, which is what I was really looking for, I guess, at that age. But it came at a really high price. And so I was in the military from 17 to 22. And then when I got out, I started waking back up again and realizing how much I had cut myself off from my sensitivity, from my own humanity. And that was when I started coming back into my being and seeing, okay, well, I forgot to be like, I haven't been sensitive for the past 5 years. What does it mean to feel again? What does it mean to be emotional again? What does it mean to be able to connect with individuals on a deeper level?
Yeah. So what kind of inspired you to become a transformational coach?
Yeah. So really it was the transformations that I did within myself. In order to make it through the military and go to combat, I had to transform and change my whole being from this sensitive guy to this very, very hardcore, intense, very, very hard layered type of person. And so I did that and I built that persona up, and then when I got out of the Marine Corps, it was no longer going to serve me anymore out there in the world. And so I got out of the Marine Corps and I went to college and I started learning. I became an English major. I started writing. I started doing the arts. I started getting in touch with my being again. I started remembering how to be empathic and sensitive. And so I came into this really interesting middle space where I was able to be sensitive with people, but I was also able to be a leader. And a leader, the best leaders that I know now, can do both. They can be very sensitive, they can be empathic, they can be open, but they also can be very, very like, hey, we got to get this done no matter what. I care about your feelings, but we can't care about all your feelings right now because we have a mission to do. And that's really the work that I'm doing now with certain companies and with individuals. I'm training and teaching people how to be a conscious leader who's sensitive and open and caring, but at the same time, who's commanding, who can hold presence and who can hold people to an external standard to get the results that you want to get. And so in my own coaching work, that's really what I'm doing now is I'm working with individuals who are in leadership roles and leadership positions and want to find that balance between their masculine side and their feminine side. Because to be most effective, you need to be able to do both. You need to be able to command a room, you need to be able to speak, you need to be able to be charismatic, but at the same time you need to be soft, you need to be open, you need to be compassionate, you need to be able to hear what's going on with your coworkers, what's going on in the environment, what's going on with your family, your friends. So it's really about balancing that masculine part of us and that feminine part of us. And so a lot of my work consists of bringing people into that middle ground where they can hold both, where they can be out there in the world, active, engaged, where they can be speaking, they can be commanding, but they also know when to take a seat in the back and just be open and be able to listen.
Yes.
Does that make sense how I explained that?
Yeah, for me, it makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people who are kind of in a leadership role themselves, or especially who start their own business, can really probably recognize it. And especially when you're also a coaching business or more a spiritual business, um, we can really have to kind of what you say that the masculine and the feminine energy kind of have to be in harmony. And
Oh yeah.
that is really important. It's also what I discovered myself, that sometimes you just gotta take action and move forward, but sometimes you also have to know, okay, now I need to rest and sit back and not get burned out or try to force things to happen. um,
Yes, that's beautiful. I love that. Yeah, there's times where you need to push and make things happen, and then there's times where you need to sit back and just recognize that you've done everything on your part and you can't do any more. And I think knowing the balance between that, especially as an entrepreneur, is really, really key. Entrepreneurs, they have this dual role where they're the ones who are moving the ball forward. They're the only ones, like no one else is going to do it for you, but at the same time, working out there in the world, developing relationships, that's, you can make the calls, you can reach out to people. At the same time, you can't create, like, sometimes you can't control a relationship and how quickly a business relationship develops. You can do things, you can take action around it, give gifts, show that you truly care about that other person, show that you care about their business. But at the same time, if you want to work with another individual, it might take a little bit of time for them to come around, to trust you, to see you, to learn what it is that you're about, to see the value that you bring to the table. It's really yeah, it really is a middle space. I think that's really one of the keys when it comes to entrepreneurship, is knowing when to push forward and knowing what's in your control, and then knowing when to let go, uh, and finding that balance. That's certainly been my own journey. And that's what I bring up. I have a number of entrepreneurial clients that I work with. One of them is in this kind of similar space where they want to expand their business, but they're not going to be able to expand their business unless they learn the relationship skills that they need to learn. And so it's like, yeah, they have all the logistics, they know how to take orders, they know how to set up a brick and mortar business in a town, they know how to order supplies, they have all the parts that are in their control. However, they don't have the relationship skills yet. So we've been working on just listening. How do you listen to another person? Like, when you want to reach out and connect with your customers and your clients, a big part of that is just being able to listen. They're a great manager. They can tell their employees what needs to get done and how to do things, but do they have that feminine side where they can just listen to their customers or listen to their employees to hear what they really need?
Yeah, that's
Does
very
does
good
that
advice.
sound
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, because for me it was more like the opposite. I'm like really a people person, so I always working in the actual work, so working one on one with clients or collaborating with other people always happens really naturally. And what for me was really difficult is the organizing part. So really like the
Mm,
practical thing. So that was the thing I really needed to kind of say to no, we're going to do this right now. And instead of, oh, it doesn't feel right. And this kind of can become like an excuse, or you could also go away of sabotaging yourself. That
mm,
we all have these things that we don't really want to do, but sometimes it's just really important when to know we're now going to do it. And also for me, it was also, I think a lot of times we also sort of find certain things very scary. So for me, with starting to go more public and put myself out there, was really scary as well. So what would you advise someone who is going to start something new and they are feeling a lot of fear or a lot of resistance
mm.
on embarking on something new?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a couple things here, and we can do a little bit example or trial run if you'd like to, so I can share with you how I break through those barriers with people. The first thing is to recognize that the path of growth and the path of transformation is always going to be uncomfortable and hard at times. It's just natural. You know, those growing pains, whether it's in your business, whether it's in your relationships, whatever it is in life that you want to grow and expand in, it's not going to be easy. It's just the nature of growth. However, what's important to realize is that there's always going to be a voice in our head that says, stay the same, or that says it won't work out. So, the really key thing to do is develop an awareness around that voice. So, for instance, you know, I wanted to expand my work from just my one-on-one clients that I take online and my group coaching program that I run. I wanted to start working with it within companies. That's my next level of expansion that came down to me about 3 months ago. So I said to myself, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make this happen? And that was scary for me, but I knew that that was the next level of expansion and growth for my business. And I heard all these voices saying, you know, I was reaching out to companies. Some people I was cold calling, other people I was just using my network that I already am a part of. And at times I was thinking to myself, oh man, like, you know, people haven't seen me in this role. Can I really bring them value? Am I ready to do this? And it's just like, hear that voice, but just recognize that it's not real. It's just a voice. You don't actually have to listen to it. Act against it. So that's what I tell my clients is whenever you hear that voice that comes in of fear, worry, anxiety, maybe it's self-worth, you're not good enough, will people recognize the value that you bring to the table? I ask them two questions. First, I say, how can you approach this voice with a childlike and playful spirit? You know, when you see a child, it doesn't have all these criticisms of itself when it's trying to learn to do a new skill. When it wants to learn to walk, it just gets up and walks, just starts it. And then it falls down and maybe cries and then gets back up and tries it again until, you know, 3 or 4 years later, it's sprinting and it can run full force. And it's the same with us as humans. If we have those voices, it's okay. Just don't listen to them. Recognize when they come up, and then ask yourself, okay, how can I approach this problem or this issue in a joyful, playful, childlike spirit? How can I make it a game? And so that's what I was reaching. I wanted to coach. I coached a celebrity. It was like back in, I guess it would have been April or May. I coached a celebrity. It was really the serendipitous situation where I met them in the hotel lobby, and I coached them for 2 hours, and it went really, really well. But then I was like, man, I really want to coach and work with this person. I can really see where I can bring a lot of value to their life. And so I got their number and I wanted to continue to connect with them. But then I started getting that secondary voice. Oh, this person's a multimillionaire. Am I good enough to coach them? All that other stuff. And I was nervous. But then I realized it's like, this is a great opportunity. I shouldn't let my own self-doubts and concerns and worries keep me from providing value to another person. You know, that's the other shift there too, is like, don't focus on your own insecurities, focuses on the value and the service that you can bring to another individual. It's not about your own insecurities. It's about the value and the change that you can bring to another person's life by what you bring to the table. So that was exactly what I did. Instead of being worried and listening to that voice, I said, how can I just make this fun? I'm just going to call him and see what happens. And if it goes somewhere, great. If it doesn't, okay, I'll just call him again next week. I've probably called him 6 times within the past 6 months. Sometimes we have conversations. Other times he doesn't want to talk, but it's allowed me to build a relationship with him, offer value, and I just focus on him. I just put all my focus on the service and the value that I can bring to him. I don't make it about my own worries or concerns or insecurities. Am I good enough? Anytime that comes up, you just put it to the side. And eventually, when you live in a way where you're always going against that voice that's telling you you're not good enough, or are you ready to do this, that voice just will stop coming up. Rarely does that voice ever come up for me now. Now I notice it right away. And as soon as I notice it, I'm like, I see you. And I act against it. And I just ask myself, how can I add and show the value that I know I can bring to the table and serve this person really powerfully? It's not about my insecurities. It's about changing their life and serving them. And then number 2, how can I just address this situation in a joyful and playful spirit? Does that answer the question? I feel like that was a really long-winded answer.
It was a long answer, but it was really good advice. So I think that's really good. And because a lot of times we let our own thoughts and our own fears stop us so much. And it's also the number thing that helped me was realizing how it impacted other people, how my work impacted other people. And it was always the number one thing that kept me going, that whenever I was in moments when I was in fear or deep insecurity, because I had to go through like a lot of things in order to get to the point where I can just say like, I'm going to do this. It took me a while to be able to do that. And what I really realized is that every single time I was kind of, no, I'm not going to do this. I cannot do it. No one wants my help, or all these insecurities that come up. And then always someone at that time would message me, or someone would come up to me that day, or someone would tell me how much it helped them, what I do. And that was always the number one thing that kept me going. And that's also what I advise people I coach. It's not just about you. The things you do are always beyond you. And it's always, so sometimes we can get so caught up in the moment and so caught up in our own fears, and that we forget to see the bigger picture. So sometimes what I also like to do, I kind of like to zoom out. And also when we go through painful experiences, that to realize that, okay, it's really painful right now. Or when you're in very deep, low emotions, very painful right now, it's okay to feel that pain, or it's okay to feel the fear, but do not let it hold you back, because there are way bigger things ahead. And that helped me so much. So what would you kind of advise someone who's kind of at a very low point in life? So they experience a lot of depression, or they experience a lot of anxiety, something that's really is holding them back on like a day-to-day basis. A few things they could do to kind of, the first few steps they could take to kind of get them out of that situation and move out of that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first thing I'd ask them, and these are just some questions that they can ask themselves, is why are you depressed? What exactly is causing you to depress your energy down? Because that's what depression is. It's literally a depression of our energy. Where in your past, or where are you holding yourself back? One of my clients, I remember, she's not a client anymore. We finished our work. Her name was Biba. She had been through a number of traumas in her life, and she, in order to survive her family upbringing, she had to be a particular way within that family. So she couldn't express her true self because it wasn't safe enough. She had to express this fake self that was really a personality that she built in order to cope with her family upbringing. And so when she came to me, I could see that. I could see her true authentic self deep within her, but then I saw the personality that she built on the surface. And so when she was going through a depressive state, I could see that the depression was because she had depressed her authentic self since childhood. She depressed that part of her down to survive her family. And now she was not in her family and she had her own life. She just didn't know what she needed to do in order to release that personality that she had built up to survive the family and to allow her authentic self to come out. So what I did was I just asked her questions around that. I said, hey, what do you feel like is holding you back? Okay, so you have this kind of depression, this anxiety, this fear. How is that keeping you safe? And then she would say, oh, well, when I was little, I never felt safe in my family home to be who I wanted to be. I wanted love and affection from my parents, but they didn't give it to me. So I had to form a certain identity and person in order to get that love and affection. And then I asked more questions. Well, what if you could just be your authentic self and still get that love and affection now in the world? Do you know that you can do that? And for her, that was like, boom, that was a huge game changer. She was like, oh, wait, I can just be myself and get love. I can just be who I want to be, get love and affection. Oh, that was just one breakthrough moment that she had. And that allowed her more just to be her true authentic self. So if a person is stuck in this space, I would ask them certain questions. Yeah, like why do you feel, what's holding you back? Like, why do you feel like you're holding yourself back? And they might not think it's them. They'll say it's other people, but it's like, well, why are you allowing those other people to hold you down? What are you not saying? What truths are you not speaking? What are you tolerating in your life? That's a huge question. Are you tolerating the friendships that you have? Are you tolerating the relationships that you have? Whether it's in family or romance or business, just don't tolerate anything. So that would be the questioning process that I would go down, and that would open them up more and more. And then as they open up, we uncover the layers that have been holding them back, which allows more of their light to shine. And naturally, when we shine more out there in the world, we bring more things, so the types of things that we want into our life.
Yeah, it's good fact, because a lot of times what I also experienced, and also with people who are really stuck in the process of getting out of depression and anxiety, that's a lot of times because we try to constantly change things about ourselves. And
Yeah.
I think also we have a big industry, and that self-help and self-development and also mental health that is the ones to actually help people, but they all approach it kind of in a way of, you have to change this and this and this about yourself, and then you'll get better. And I also had a
Yeah.
call last night, a very good friend of mine, and I kind of shared with her how my breakthrough kind of helped me to realize that, no, what I actually needed to do, I needed to accept and love the parts of me that weren't actually acceptable by society, and that actually it's not about changing yourself, but like you said, with authenticity, like becoming more of yourself.
Yes, that's beautiful. Yeah, chip away the things that were no longer you, that were never you in the first place, and then naturally the authentic self comes out. Yeah, I love it. That's spot on. There's this one beautiful quote by, I think, Michelangelo. He says, there's a statue in every block. You just need to chip away, there's a masterpiece in every block of clay or every block of stone. You just need to chip away at the things that don't need to be there. And it's the same with us. It's like, you don't need to change yourself. What you need to do is let go of the things that are holding you back, or let go of the things that you've taken on that aren't actually you. And so really it's not really transformation is really about breakdown. It's not really a build up, it's about breakdown. And people get scared because they're like, everything's going wrong, things are breaking down. And I say, no, this is great. Breakdown happens before you rise up. And rising up is a natural byproduct of shedding those old layers of who you thought you had to be and who you thought you were.
Yeah, because what can be really difficult is kind of that transition phase. So that you discover first, okay, I haven't been being myself, and I've always been putting other people's needs above my own, or trying to put myself in a box where I don't fit in. And then you kind of start to make the changes so you can become more who you are. But it also means you maybe have to let go of some people, or change your
Mm-hmm.
profession. And you also see a lot of people that are going through what we call like the awakening process.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have some advice for people who are going through this transition phase and it feels like they're losing kind of a lot, and they kind of know that, of course, it will eventually be filled up again. But how can you kind of deal with that in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. So the awakening space for people that's exactly it. It's that transformational space. Oh, I'm no longer living the life that I thought I had to live. I'm going to start living life on my terms. It's going from a victim to a creator. Whenever we're in a position in life where we're living how other people think we need to live, we're going to naturally play the victim. We're going to say, you did this to me. You deceived me, or like I married you and you deceived me, or I went to this job and they took advantage of me. It's always the other, they, victimization thinking. But an awakening happens, you move from victim mindset to creator mindset, where it says, no, I'm going to choose life now how I want. I'm going to choose the friends who are in my life. I'm going to choose the work that I want. I'm going to choose the types of people that I want to include that will build me up. And that's where it's taking responsibility. And not responsibility in the traditional sense of what we think about it, like, oh, I have to worry about my kids and I have to worry about my bills. No, responsibility in the sense of I have the ability to respond to any situation in my life however I want to. So you can respond to, let's say, like a person, you get fired from a job, you can respond to that and say, oh, they're a horrible company, I don't like them. And you can victimize yourself and hurt yourself and say, oh, I'm going to sue them, or whatever it is that people do these days. Or you can say, okay, I got fired for a reason. What was that reason? What's the benefit behind it? Maybe I need to learn something, or maybe that job isn't aligned with who I am. And then you can take it as a learning experience. And that's taking responsibility. You're choosing to be a creator in that moment. You're saying, okay, I have the ability to respond to this situation how I want to respond. I can either respond by being a victim or by being a creator and finding something beneficial in it. And so a lot of people who are in the awakening phase, they're going from this victim mindset in all areas of their life to this creator mindset. That was my own journey. Does that make sense how I describe that?
Yeah, it really made a lot of sense for me, because because it kind of exactly fits my situation. Because when I had my awakening, I was 18 years old and I had a heart attack, which led to a big near-death experience. And then I woke up that morning, and instead of saying, oh, it's so bad that everything has happened to me, and I was like, no, I'm now going to take full responsibility for my health. So I would listen to the doctors and I would listen to everyone and follow their advice, but it was my responsibility. And before, I didn't live a healthy lifestyle at all. I had a lot of coping with alcohol and and a lot of other things. I wasn't eating healthy at all. And within 1 year, I completely shifted. I completely shifted my entire life, my way of eating. And of course, I have moments where I fell back. We all have relapses and falling back in old behavior, but I stick to it. And then within 1 year, I was 100% healed. So even like the scar tissue and everything else was gone. And deep down, I already knew that. But it was, and sometimes people see it just like as a magical moment or something, a miracle. But what I always say is there are certain actions that back it up. There's certain behavior that I've done. And then I started to analyze different situations, and it was all the same thing. People took full responsibility. People who like healed in a way beyond what is normal. All did the same thing. They started to change their life drastically, taking full responsibility for their life. And what they also did, they became aware of their thinking and their emotions. And I think that is also in the awakening process. We start to take more responsibility, and also not only responsibility for our actions in the situation we're in, but also for our thinking, and also for our emotions, which is like a way deeper level.
Wow. Yeah, spot on. I think it sounds like that near-death experience for you then was like a total gift. And I know for a lot of other people, near-death experiences are gifts. They really value life a lot more after that.
Yeah. because I think just before we started doing this episode, you also talked about your Kundalini Awakening, and that
Mm-hmm.
you felt this rush of energy throughout your body, and it was exactly what I felt when I just woke up from my heart attack. And the nurse
Mm,
grabbed my arm, and what I felt so good. I never felt so good in my life, because I felt this rush of energy throughout my whole body. And it
mm,
was like my whole body was not on fire, but like this,
alive,
yeah, alive and like electric, but really,
vibrant.
yeah, vibrant. That's the right word. And yeah, maybe you could share a little bit more about your own Kundalini awakening and how it was for you.
Yeah. So it's really, for me, it's like my body's always vibrant. Like it's like it's always turned on. I always feel like there's electricity running through it. And there's times where I'm just like, I don't even want to do anything. I just want to sit with my own being and enjoy my body and just like literally do absolutely nothing and just sit there. But I can't do that because I'm really passionate about the work that I have out there in the world. But there will be times where I'm just, okay, I'm just going to sit with myself for an hour. And it's not even going to be like I'm not meditating even. I'm just sitting with my body and feeling it. And it feels so great. It feels so amazing all the time. And a lot of people who go through sometimes who go through Kundalini awakenings have hard time being motivated out there in the external world because they're just so blissed out in their own being. They don't need that external stimulation or feedback in order to feel good. So that's kind of been something that I've been working with and balancing. But yes, I mean, it happened in 2012, and I think I shared with you it was around the military. I was getting out of the military, and all the repression from combat, from the repression of trauma from childhood, just came to the surface with the energy. And what the energy does is it goes into my being, and then I feel it, and then I'll drop into those traumatic spaces within my body, untangle or unwind those emotions, and then it will release it. And then I'll be at a new higher vibration and a better level. And then it just continually does this. Our body's a memory chip. It stores our entire genetic line. All the memories, emotional and mental patterns of every ancestor in our genetic line exist within this body. And so the Kundalini energy, it just like cleans it all out. It cleans it all out.
Yeah, that's a very good description, because that's what it kind of feels like. And also, some people might have it in meditation when they really go deep into, they feel like all this energy that can be ancestral or from this life, and it's kind of like stuck in your body, and you're
Mm-hmm.
holding on to it subconsciously, and it just gets released.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that with really a lot of grief for me,
Mm.
because I had a lot of like loss in my life. And I like you said before in the beginning, I was also someone that was extremely sensitive. So, and I suppressed that during like my teenage years. I just became a little bit more tough because I didn't want to show people that I was in pain and that I was sad. And all that, like that energy that was bottled up, all those emotions kind of were released when I had that experience. And I continue having experience like that. Then usually a little bit smaller, but still. And maybe you have some last advice of if people, how to maybe release like negative energy or stuff they're holding on to, a practice or something they can do.
Yeah. So the great thing is about that, I mean, I did a lot of grounding. I mean, for a year and a half, I just did yoga every day, no matter what, getting those energies out, the normal grounding things, going for hikes, spending more time in nature. Really, what worked for me, though, was, and you might have to do a lot of therapy work for a little bit. But really, what worked for me was just doing coaching. That was the next level for me. I mean, I did therapy, I did yoga, I did all these other types of healing modalities, and then I was like, well, I'm kind of done about healing the past. I feel like I've healed the past. I feel like I've healed a lot of my ancestral wounds that exist in my body. Like, what's my future look like though? Like, I want to learn how to create my future. And that's for me what the coaching was really about, is naturally when you focus on creating the type of future that you want from the present state, from living in your present state of being, you'll release the past. The past will just naturally release itself because your being can only hold so much space. So the more you orient your focus towards what it is that you want to create out there in the world, the more those things will just naturally fall by the wayside. And that was what I realized. I realized I didn't need to do therapy or more healing work, because can become a trap. Some people just keep saying, oh, I can live the life that I want to live once I get healed, or once I take care of everything. And it's like, no, it's actually just a healing circle. Healing, you can heal and create at the same time. And it gets to a point along the awakening journey, I know I did, where I was like, okay, well, I feel like if I'm just going back to the past all the time, I'm just bringing up stuff that I no longer need to bring up anymore, that I've worked with or dealt with. The mind can create stories about the past and bring up stuff to find, but also it can create stories about the future and create those stories and make them real out here in the physical life. And so for me, that was what coaching was about. Once I started focusing on my vision for what I wanted to do out in the world, and I went full-fledged into that, naturally all the past stuff just fell away. And there's times where it'll still come up, but I won't be thinking about it. I'll just be like, oh yeah, there it is. Okay, it's up. It comes up for a couple days and then it leaves. And then I'm back to focusing on what I want to create in the future. Recently I had this experience. I didn't know that I still had some survivor's guilt left over from combat. I was at a leadership training about a week ago in San Diego, and it was really intense. It was really awesome. It took my coaching to the next level. I'm always investing in myself and how to make my own craft better so I can serve my clients in a more powerful way. And this training, like, it brought me into a deeper aspect of myself that I thought I'd integrated but didn't know. And so I had to take 2 days off where I just allowed myself to feel it, to work through it. But the entire time I was going through it, I wasn't thinking about the past. I was just thinking, oh, this is what's coming up for me right now. And this is somehow going to make me more effective for what I want to create in the future. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I do think, like, it's very important to not get, like, stuck in the past when you're going, like, through the healing process.
Oh,
And
yeah.
because this was also what you mentioned, and when things need to come up or still are really unresolved, they will come up, and then it's important
Yes.
to acknowledge it, to see it, and not ignore it. But you don't have to worry about, oh, I cannot move forward right now because I still need to heal this
Right.
things for the past. That's, like, not true at all. It's like,
Exactly.
so actually moving forward is so important, because that can already be healing in itself, that you can move out of a situation.
Beautiful. I love the way that you said that. Yeah. Yeah. When you move forward and take those steps naturally forward and start creating what you want to create out there in the world, whatever that looks like, whether it's new relationships or business, however it is, then the past will naturally fall away because your being needs to make space for that new things to come in.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, so thank you so much. Like, you gave so much amazing advice. Yeah, I really want to thank you very much. And what if people are really interested in maybe working with you or anything? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so they can find me. I have a YouTube channel called Transformational
Mm.
Coaching. So if you just search Transformational Coaching on YouTube, that'll come up. I also have my website, transformationalcoaching.co, not .com, .co. There's a questionnaire on there, and I give away like my own 5 key secrets to transformation that they can download if they want that. And also, if they just want to reach out to me directly through Facebook Messenger, you can find me on Facebook as Jared Bull, Jared, then last name Bull, Bull. You'll see all my information on my webpage, and you can just send me a message. If I'm not busy with clients or I'm not doing other work, I'll definitely get back and reach out. It just might take a little bit. Sometimes I can be responsive right away, but I get a lot of traffic. So at this point, I'm like, I don't know what I can and can't take. So, but I've more than encouraged, if people have deeper questions around this, they're more than welcome to reach out, and I'll get back to them as soon as I can.
Okay, cool. I will also, just to make sure, put some links of you down below to make it a little bit easier. Um,
Great.
so I just want to thank you so much for being here today. It was, it was amazing to have you on the show. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed my time here.